We are wrapping up season 1 of the Success Story Spotlight. And today I'm going to be covering a couple of themes that you will notice when you go back and you watch some of these episodes. Now, we originally started this series because we wanted to share more success stories because we realized that, when people go to conferences and they network and they're talking to other people, they're learning, they're picking up different ideas and they're being inspired. And it is very helpful when you are building any type of business or any type of law firm that you are learning from other people who have gone down the road. So you don't make the same mistakes that they made, but you find out what worked and you duplicate it and you can build the type of firm that you really want. And so in season 1, we released 15 episodes and there were a lot of great things. So I'm not going to go through every single episode, but I am going to touch on a few of the consistent themes that we saw and highlight a few of the conversations. But I also want to let you know that yes, we're wrapping up season 1, but we're already working on season 2. And our team is pretty excited about this because we've already been in production, filming and working on editing some of season 2 already. And I will tell you, the conversations just continue to get better and better and better. And there's some other interesting things we're going to start releasing between season 2 and season 3 that we're already working on. And it has been exciting because we wanted to create a playlist for people to continually hear success stories. And here's the thing. All of the episodes are between 9 to 15 minutes long. So they're not long episodes at all. They're great conversations that you can get in, get some really good nuggets to help you in your journey with your firm, and you can get back to the things that you want to do and love to do, and you don't have to sit around for a very long episode. So here are a couple of the things that I want to highlight. So, the first thing that I want to highlight is that when it comes down to success, success is not all about the money that you make in your firm. See, I know that might sound very strange coming from the leader of an accounting firm because we do bookkeeping and CFO services for law firms. But I've learned in these conversations, as well as when working with clients, is that it's not all about the money. Now, the money is very, very important because what the money does is it actually supports what you really want. Because one of the things that I always tell people is, well, if I gave you, $50 million, but I told you couldn't spend any of it, would you be happy? And most people would probably say no, because it's not really the money, it's what I want to do with the money. And as you really go through many of these episodes and conversations with a lot of these successful lawyers, is what they said is that when they actually got to the point where they found what is the real driving reason behind it, like it was getting down to that real reason for why they wanted to build their firm or what they were working towards. Finding that reason was kind of like the genesis for them to really be successful. And so I would tell anyone who's watching this series is listen for that theme to consistently show up in a lot of the conversations. And the thing is, I didn't prompt anyone to talk about that, but you hear it said over and over again. And whenever you hear a lot of successful people say the same thing in different conversations, is probably a consistent theme you should really pay attention into. So I always tell people is, hey, even when we're working with you as a CFO, is let's not really focus on the money first. Let's focus on the why. And once we find your why, then we can back into what do the numbers need to look like to support that why. And if you do that, I think it'll increase your chances of success in your law firm. The second thing that really jumped out was being able to redefine success. Now, a lot of firms or people who start a firm go into the firm and they really define success based on someone else's terms. Like, for example, in the conversation that I was having with Regina, she talked about like she was doing all the things that she was hearing at conferences. People were telling her that she should do, and she was making progress at it. But she was like, man, she had built this pretty big firm, but she was not making that much money. So what she did is she sat back and she said, all right, what if I just redefine what success really looks like? And what she ended up doing was shrinking her firm and made way more money with a smaller firm because she started to really redefine success based on what really mattered to her and not based on how her firm looked compared to the advice of others. Or even Bernard Nomberg, where he and his brother started a firm, and instead of going with the conventional wisdom of just building this huge firm with a bunch of people, is they built it intentionally on the terms that mattered to them and the things that they wanted to focus on. And they're enjoying running their firm. They're enjoying continue to grow the firm the way they want to do it. And even when I had fun with my conversation with Jordan Ostroff, a good friend of mine, that he and I have had many conversations about this, but in the conversation for the interview, we talked about how he redefined success on his own terms because he, like many, probably started his firm looking at how other people were doing it and trying to define his success path based on what others were doing. But when he took a step back and he said, you know what? I'm going to redefine this and remap this out for what is it that I really want. And when he did that, he was able to build a firm that not only that he enjoys, but all of the people on his team really enjoy working and being a part of his team and being a part of the firm. Because when you get clarity about what you want to do and why you want to do it, it not only helps you build the type of firm you want, but it also builds the type of firm that attracts the people that you actually want to be part of your team. And so, the third thing that really jumps out when you pay attention to these episodes are you don't have to accept the industry standards when it comes down to how you build your firm. See, many of the guests that we had on the show talked about how at the time there were things that were going crazy in the legal industry where there were other firms who just weren't growing and there were other challenges that they were facing. And many of the guests said, you know what? What if I just look at this differently? What if I decide to just really redefine how I'm actually looking at my firm and how you actually grow a firm? And I just think outside of the box. And I will say, my conversation with Eileen Kendall was it was amazing to hear the story of what she did when other firms were literally shutting down because of what was going on with the laws and what was going on with regulations in her area. She said, you know what? What if I just take a completely different approach to this? And one of the things that she did is while others were closing down and shutting down, and she was actually growing faster than she ever thought was possible because she was willing to think differently. Or when I talked to my friend Claire, and she said she looked at her numbers and she realized there was a trend that around a certain time of year is when it was usually the slowest point of her year. I mean, looking back historically, that was what she was going through. And even when she talked to other firms similar to hers, they were going through a similar slow period. And most people would just accept that, hey, it's just slow at this time of year. But she said, you know what if I didn't accept that as the truth? What if I just challenged myself and said, hey, what if we do things a little bit differently? And she did. And now the what seems to be the slowest month of the year for other firms like hers is actually one of the best times of year for her firm because she was willing to think about it differently. And there are many stories of people who talked about that, of just being able to think outside of the box and to not really, like I said, follow the trends of the industry, but say, hey, how do I think innovatively? Now, also another one that really jumped out to me was Chad's story. Now, Chad's story was pretty interesting because he tackled not only one, but two very, very key things that are stopping a lot of law firms from being successful. And that is client acquisition and hiring. So one of the things that he did is he said, you know, what if we got creative with the way we use social media to solve both of those problems? And by using a very innovative approach and a very open approach to how they use their social media channels, they've been able to solve the client acquisition problem as well as solve hiring problems. Like they're able to build the type of firm that both clients and the right type of staff want to be a part of. And I was like, you know what? That is a very innovative way of thinking about it. And the last thing that I want to point out in season one is success often comes down to building the right systems. Now, when it comes down to building the right system, there could be a number of ways to approach it. I mean, you could take the approach like Sam did, where Sam used automation and AI to really, I would say, put his firm on steroids to grow it massively. I mean, he was running multiple firms at the same time because of the way he was leveraging AI and automation. Or maybe you can do like Jay did, where Jay has become one of the masters at creating frameworks and blueprints. And it has been amazing to see that work. Or you can talk about my friend Josh, who built a firm where he just started off with just him and his mother, which a very funny story where he and his mother actually went to law school together. They started a firm and it just started with just them, and they've grown it to 40 plus employees. And he also talked about like what it was like in building out the systems. One is, so as you grow, you can actually keep a healthy culture and you can set your firm up for further growth so you don't hit that ceiling or that roadblock where now you're just stuck. And all of them talked about the importance of having the system, the culture, and the things that they needed to do to put the right systems in place. So I'm telling you, there are a ton of great conversations in season one. And I will say, before I close out this wrap up, I do have to mention there is one episode that I will say this was probably the most honest and challenging conversation that happened in season one. And it is with Anna Janasia. I would say that conversation, I had so much fun as well as was challenged because Anna really did an amazing job of addressing a lot of the obstacles and the excuses that a lot of times we see and we hear about why people can't grow their firm or what is holding them back. And I will say, she did not hold back in sharing some of the things that she had to face herself to be able to overcome those very common obstacles and sometimes excuses that hold so many firms back. And I will say, it was a very, what I would call an unfiltered conversation on that interview. And I thought it was an amazing way to wrap up season one. And I will tell you, it has been so fun doing this series, this success spotlight series, because we do need to put a bigger spotlight on the success stories that we hear. Because when you're building a law firm or you're building any type of business, really, it's not very difficult to find all the negative stories. It's not very difficult to find all of the problems. But sometimes we don't put enough attention on the success stories. And the reason I think that we should put attention on them is because those success stories give us the motivation, the energy, the excitement that we need to go out and define our terms of success, to build the systems, and to think outside of the box, and to challenge ourselves to really do what we can to make our own path successful. So thank you so much for tuning in to season one. We will be bringing to you season two starting in April. And I'm telling you, we have some great episodes coming in season two. So thank you so much for believing in the Law Firm Success Story Spotlight series. We will have so much more great content and more success stories coming your way starting in April. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Law Firm and Finance Show, where we give you great content that helps you build a more successful law firm. So make sure you hit that subscribe button on all platforms and follow us for more content.